Barron Ridge Speakers Agency proudly presents Speaker Spotlight, highlighting one of our keynote speakers from across the nation. Now, here's your Spotlight host, Mindy East.
Everyone watching, I want to introduce you to Steve Sax. He's one of my speakers. He's a two-time World Series champion, Rookie of the Year, an ICF certified business coach. And Steve, you've been with my agency since the beginning, and I appreciate you, and I just wanted to say thank you. And I just want to hear a little bit about how you're doing with this COVID-19.
Well, thanks, Mindy. It's good to be here with you, and you've done a great job. You've just taken off in the business and starting to become a real cornerstone in the speaking world. So you've done a great job. So congratulations on your efforts too. In this is obviously a tough time for our country. I mean, this is obviously a tough challenge for everybody. And now we find ourselves trying to strike a balance between, being extra safe and protecting people, but as well as getting our country back on par and going back to work. And so it's striking a balance between those two, I think, is what's in front of us right now. And we're looking forward to getting the world back to us and beating this horrible virus. But I think it's imperative that we do the right thing and, try to keep people safe right now.
So what are you doing to stay? I know some of your topics you speak on, your personal development, team building, leadership, motivation. So what are you doing to stay motivated today?
Well, knowing that this is going to pass and knowing that there's only so much that we have control over, I think that given that, you just try to stay within the parameters and keep yourself entertained, all the while, trying to be diligent on doing the right stuff so you don't get sick. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Just trying to, stay doing the right thing, but trying to stay positive.
So speaking of positives, I know you've written a book, and I have a signed copy. This is your book, Change Your Mindset, and you change your world. Yes. Right. And this is full of great nuggets of wisdom and advice and lessons. So what would you teach someone from your book as far as how can they find fulfillment in times of scarcity like we're in, or even abundance for that?
Well, I think it's all about how you think, and that's why the title is what it is. Change your mindset and you change your world. So it's all about how you perceive things, how you think. Even down to trivial thoughts, it's really important what goes into this computer on our shoulders, because it really houses all those thoughts. And to try to jettison the bad thoughts and keep in the good is a real art form. And that's some of the things that we do in our coaching techniques, is trying to teach people to think the right way. So it's really very important what you think about and how you covet the good thoughts and try to get rid of the bad ones. I mean, so that's one thing. And the other thing is, when you talk about, there in the midst of scarcity, life was abundant. I think it can be. And that's all about exercising your passion. I mean, if you're passionate about what you're doing, or another word for passion is love, if you're just expressing the love of what you're doing, that's what passion is. And I think if you look at people and the way they go about their daily works and their jobs, if you will, you can kind of look at a person and see how they go about their practice, whatever it is. You can kind of tell what kind of person they are. I can tell by watching somebody work. You can tell what they're like. And so I think it's all about loving what you do. If you can find that, what a treasure that is to really love what you're doing. Because chances are, if you love what you're doing, you're going to be pretty good at it, or you got a better chance to be very good at it, as opposed to just going through the motions and dreading what you're doing.
So for someone today that might be out of the workplace and maybe things have changed for them, maybe the future looks uncertain to them, you just mentioned something that I think you should elaborate on, finding your passion. Maybe this is a good time to assess, am I where I really need to be as far as my career, my chosen field?
Yeah.
What would you tell one of your business clients about something like that?
One of the first questions I'll ask people in a coaching session is, what do you love? What do you adore? What really makes you work? And I think you have to look into that passion center in your heart and find out what you really, really like, what makes you go. And it's so much easier. Things become so much more fluid when you're doing something that looks effortless, when you seem to harmonize with the universe. I know it may sound corny, but when you're loving what you're doing and you're executing that and feeling good about it, everything just seems to work together. And that's why I say when you're working in harmony with the universe, it's because you're loving what you're doing. So finding that out is really a big thing. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I mean, it's, yeah, if you can find out. I was fortunate. I knew at 5 years old, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. There's just no question about that. If you find it later in your life, so be it. But I mean, can you imagine for a second what it would be like if you got to get up every day and couldn't wait to get to work because you just loved it so much? And oh yeah, by the way, you were really successful with that. And oh yeah, by the way, it gave you all the things that you wanted in your life because you were so good at what you were doing. You were loving what you were doing. That's what you should strive for.
Well, and I know you've had some very high highs, career highs, and a few career lows that you had to work through. And you had to, kind of reinvent yourself. So what if someone is facing a fork in the road today? What would you like to let them know about?
I would say that the possibilities are limitless if you have the basic tenets of good work ethic and drive and those type of things, and love of life, respect for people. Those basic tenets right there are going to get you through, and it can take you onto any road. I mean, gosh, I've done so many things in my life, and I failed so many times that I'm not afraid to talk about it. I mean, I really think that failure is something that you should put on right next to celebrate. And I'm not talking about when people have a business and it goes down and they're failed and they're destitute and on the street. I simply don't mean that. I mean that I think that is something that you should celebrate. And this is what I mean is that when people find that they're going to go through a tough time and failure lurks around the corner, and if they can bite that right in the face and challenge it and say that, the worst thing in the world isn't failing. The worst thing in the world is never knowing how great you could possibly be. If you're willing to accept that, get on the pony and ride into the face of that and challenge it, then that's a great thing. It's all worth it.
Well, let me talk to you a little bit about, I've heard you speak on multiple occasions, and one of your speeches that really made an impression on my life was when you were talking about leadership and how important it is to have people at the top who are good leaders. And I saw you on Hannity's Great America talk about the same thing basically, and you've been in front of great big audiences like Coca-Cola, Bank of America, Bank of Tokyo. You're one of my busiest speakers, and I know you're all over. When you talk about leadership, I've heard you say more people leave a job due to the leadership they're under rather than the job itself.
Absolutely. If you look throughout our country, 70% of the American workforce today is not emotionally engaged at work. So that means that all you people out there that are leaders in leadership positions, 7 of 10 people that you hire are working just hard enough not to get fired. And that's not a good thing. And the main reason, what's the main reason for that is leadership. Leadership is the main reason why people find themselves in this predicament. So if you can find that you can get people more emotionally engaged at what they're doing, again, chances are they're going to be really good at it and love what they're doing and want to stick around. A lot of people also will leave their place of work. I did it when I was a baseball player. I left a team not because of the money. Money is not the most important thing. Being recognized at work and appreciated at work, also feeling like you're part of the solution going forward, and respect at work. Those things are probably all more important than money. Money certainly is an important factor, but it's not, and it usually isn't the reason why people leave. It's usually one of those other reasons. And so I think if you have to look at, in totality, look at the leadership qualities of some people at work. I mean, what does it cost to replace a worker, and the turnover rate, and to train them and all that costs a lot. It's a big burden on a company. So retainment for your workforce is really key.
So you just kind of framed what our future might look like when people are segueing back from this low,
There's gonna be a reset.
Right. It has to be a really big reset. And so what could some companies do to really motivate those employees that are less than enthusiastic upon their return?
Right. Give them a picture. Give them a picture of what's going forward. Go up in a lot of times in coaching, what I like to do is like I go up in the big air balloon, and you're looking down. You're 1,000 feet up, and you're looking at the landscape, and you're saying, okay, this landscape here is your life. What does that look like for you? And if you can look at that landscape and say, wow, that's beautiful going forward. I like that, the beauty of the mountains. I like the trees. I like this beautiful pathway. What does that pathway look like? How is it covered? And if they can see a beautiful pathway going forward, then that's a good thing. So I would like to see leaders show people that they're part of the solution, that going forward, it looks really good for them, and give them a vision of what this might be like for them. And if you can do that, it's not like saying, well, we're going to give you $15,000 more a year. I don't think that's going to do anything. But having a vision and having them part of the solution is the thing, I think.
Perfect. I've heard you say too, if you're not growing, you're slowing.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Absolutely. Because our lives are not static. They're moving all the time. It's a fluid situation. And a lot of people go to that place there in the center where, the questions aren't as tough. The pressure doesn't mount there. The light's not as bright. And that place in the center there is called mediocrity. And if you go in that place and settle there too long, soon enough, you're going to be consumed by somebody or somebody else. So you got to make sure that you're keeping yourself growing, or like you said, if you're not growing, you're slowing down, and that's not a good place to be.
Well, every problem is actually an opportunity in disguise. And, I know you feel that way. I feel that way. So there are some wonderful things that are going to come out of this. And even though we're all in this together, we'll each get something different from it. So what do you think your lesson learned, or what is your silver lining in what we're going through right now as a country?
Well, it's unfortunate we're going through this, Mindy, obviously, but I think one thing it does when you talk about a reset, it makes you think about what the basic, most important things are to you. And actually, I've done that in my life as well. I've been able to maybe make more connections with your family, realizing that the place where you live and where you spend the most time is really a cherished place to be. And sometimes we take a little bit of these things for granted, but it's a reminder of how fluid and fickle life can be. I mean, a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, nobody saw this horrible battle that we're in right now against this virus. And is this going to be something that's going to be maybe the norm that we're going to have to fight every year? Who knows? But thank God we live in the most successful country in the world, and we'll find a way out of this. But it is a way to get a reset and realize what's really most important.
Absolutely. Well, I mentioned you've been on some great big stages. You've been on national television. You've been in all the major papers. Who is your perfect audience that you'd like to speak to going forward?
Well, I love to speak to, I like to speak to corporate America. I really do, because that's the engines, the generators of jobs. And it's, I just think that that's a great place to be. I like speaking to smaller companies as well, startups with a lot of enthusiasm. I think those are fun places to be. And sometimes I just go speak pro bono. I'll go to a school and speak to them, or to a little league, or to a high school. I've done those things quite a bit, especially in this time where things have slowed down. I've had an opportunity not to speak to big groups because we can't congregate, but to speak to people one-on-one, which has been kind of a fun thing for me. So I like to speak as much as possible because, it keeps me on a momentum, and I like that.
I know that. Well, you're always a great person to visit with, and thank you for your wisdom and insight. And like I said, I appreciate you, and you've given me some great career advice, and I give you a lot of credit for where I am today. If it weren't for you, you're one of the reasons why I'm here today. So thank you for everything you did for me. If anybody would like to book you for a future event, a conference, I've even arranged for appearances for you, like throwing out a baseball, or a Zoom meeting, during the interim until we get through this. Feel free, anybody out there who'd like to have Steve Sax come and speak to your group or your organization, just contact me, Mindy East, and I'd be happy to set things up for you. Steve,
Great.
once again, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Mindy. Thank you.
You have a good one.
Well.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Please join us next time. For more information on booking a keynote speaker or event MC, contact Mindy East at Barron Ridge Speakers Agency.